club and like, let's go, come celebrate me, right? It always felt weird to like invite people to come out to celebrate me. And that's my own thing. I got my own.
I let go of so much and gave it all to him, but no amount of apologies will ever undo the damage that was done. Because the truth is that hurt people end up hurting others. And once that cycle begins, it's almost impossible to stop. Justin Baldoni, after months of silence, finally decided to call out Blake Lively when she launched a relentless campaign filled with manipulative lies and baseless accusations designed to tarnish his reputation and weaken his credibility. He stood firm, warning her that this would not end well, making it crystal clear that he refused to sit back and allow shallow Hollywood games to destroy the career and dignity he had built with years of hard work. His words were not just a defense, but a declaration of resilience, emphasizing that he would not allow someone like Blake to turn him into a scapegoat for her personal ambitions or power plays. Blake, however, truly believed she could stage an Amber Heard 2.0. Assuming she could fabricate harassment claims and drag Justin's name through the mud while counting on Hollywood's tendency to blindly side with high-profile actresses simply because of their fame, charm, and status. For Justin, the past year had been nothing short of emotional torment, a never-ending battle filled with stress, anxiety, and the constant weight of a narrative designed to crush him. Blake walked into this situation confident that Justin would crumble under pressure, expecting him to fold like a cheap tent and hand her an easy victory. She even went as far as demanding a staggering $250 million, convinced that the sheer magnitude of the claim would intimidate him into silence, allowing her to play the role of the helpless victim while enjoying public sympathy. Yet this gamble, which she thought was unshakable, turned out to be the biggest mistake of her career. Instead of collapsing, Justin fought back with an intensity no one expected. He didn't just defend himself. He launched a $400 million countersuit that completely flipped the narrative, instantly shifting the spotlight from himself to Blake, forcing her to scramble in panic and enter full-scale damage control. Overnight, she transformed from the confident aggressor into someone desperately trying to protect her image, her diva-like demands and entitled behavior suddenly exposed for the world to see. What once looked like a carefully calculated move to destroy Justin's future now appeared as nothing more than a reckless act of bullying. Justin's holidays were already ruined, his peace shattered, and his career placed under direct attack. But instead of being broken, he grew stronger. His resilience sent a message that if he was this tough after everything had already come crashing down, then before the storm he must have been even tougher, more disciplined and more determined than anyone had realized. The ordeal revealed not just the ugliness of Hollywood power struggles, but also the dangerous games people play when blinded by ego, fame, and greed. In the end, Blake's attempt to control the narrative only solidified Justin's determination to rise above it all, proving that dignity, strength, and truth can withstand even the most ruthless of attacks. And guess what? It's failing spectacularly. Hollywood, the public, and even the very media outlets that once idolized Blake Lively are now turning their backs on her. The carefully crafted illusion she built for years is collapsing before everyone's eyes, and the truth is impossible to ignore. People see through the lies, the manipulation, and the desperate attempts to control the narrative. What was once a shimmering Hollywood fairy tale has disintegrated into a humiliating downfall, leaving Blake scrambling and clinging desperately to the last scraps of her fading credibility. Director Justin Baldoni has now taken the fight directly to her doorstep, filing a massive lawsuit against his former co-star Blake Lively and her husband, Ryan Reynolds. He is seeking over $400 million in damages, accusing them of defamation, manipulation, and the calculated destruction of his career. This is not just a lawsuit, it is the beginning of Blake's downfall. Her once glittering career is crumbling, her finances are hanging by a thread, and her reputation, so carefully protected for years, is beyond repair. Justin is ensuring that she never bounces back from this, that every lie is exposed and that every betrayal is punished in full view of the world. Blake thought she held all the power. She truly believed she could silence Justin with status, money, and the weight of Hollywood's old favoritism. But the moment she walked into that courtroom, reality struck her like a cold slap in the face. She wasn't the untouchable star anymore. She wasn't in control. She was unprepared, blindsided, and completely incapable of handling the force of the legal storm waiting for her. What she imagined would be an easy victory turned into a brutal unraveling of her entire case. Justin revealed how exhausted he had been from the year of lies and stress, admitting he hadn't even given himself time to heal or recover from the relentless attacks. And yet, when it mattered most, he showed up to court with fire in his voice and truth on his side. In just 90 minutes, barely the length of a movie Blake once might have starred in, her entire lawsuit crumbled to pieces. One hearing was all it took to expose the cracks in her story and send her carefully plotted strategy collapsing like a stale Hollywood popcorn bucket left too long on the counter. The courtroom atmosphere was nothing short of devastating for her. She assumed she had the upper hand, walking in with her legal team and the arrogance of someone who believed her fame would sway the system. But what she met was a legal wall built to withstand every flimsy motion she filed. One by one, every request, every attempt to steer the narrative, every desperate push for sympathy was denied. Each rejection landed like a harsh slap, stripping away her confidence and leaving her exposed. Reports confirmed that Justin denied her fabricated claims of harassment, explaining that the only reason he tolerated her on set was to get through filming, since she behaved like an entitled diva who constantly demanded special treatment. He had to bend over backward just to keep her satisfied enough to finish the project. That so-called victimhood she tried to weaponize was nothing more than the tantrums of a high-maintenance bully. Her last-ditch effort was to file a gag order to silence Justin's legal team, an attempt to bury the truth before it could explode in the press. But the judge flat-out refused, practically laughing her out of the room. With that denial, Justin's lawyer, Brian Fredman, was handed full freedom to drag every one of her lies into the spotlight for the world to see. In that moment, the power dynamic shifted completely. Justin's team could now expose her manipulations without restraint, while Blake's credibility disintegrated in real time. By the end of the hearing, her legal team looked torn apart, battered by defeat after defeat. What Blake thought would be a show of dominance turned into the most humiliating spectacle of her career. And now, as the dust settles, it's clear to everyone. The empire Blake Lively built on charm, status, and illusion is collapsing. And there is nothing left to shield her from the truth Justin has unleashed. Blake's legal team walked into that courtroom, looking less like seasoned professionals and more like clueless interns on their very first day at a law firm. They had no solid counterarguments, no convincing defense, and nothing that could withstand the brutal precision of Justin Baldoni's attorney, Brian Fredman. Every time they tried to speak, their voices cracked, their words stumbled, and their eyes darted nervously around the room as if searching for a lifeline. It was embarrassing to watch. Fredman shredded their flimsy case like a poorly written Hollywood script, leaving the once glamorous Blake Lively sitting in silence, forced to endure the collapse of the legal empire she thought she had built. The truth is painfully simple. Blake lost because she behaved like a toxic person who thought the rules didn't apply to her. She believed that her Hollywood status would act as a shield, that her influence could bend the court in her favor, the same way it bent red carpets, talk shows, and magazine covers. But instead of wielding power, she was publicly humiliated. The judge didn't flinch. The media didn't buy the act, and the people watching saw through every ounce of manipulation. What was supposed to be her triumphant moment turned into a legal bloodbath, a public spectacle where Blake was stripped of her illusion of control. And really, should anyone be surprised? This wasn't an accident or a one-off mistake. Blake Lively has been on a power trip for years, leveraging her fame to bulldoze her way into projects and relationships, and this case is just the latest crash and burn chapter in her story. She thought she could hijack Justin Baldoni's film, erase him from his own project, and parade around Hollywood as if she were the mastermind behind it all. She thought she could rewrite history by removing the man who had poured his soul into the project and claim the glory for herself. But instead, she opened up a hornet's nest. For
me, this was... First of all, look, there's no books for young boys. We have abandoned.
And when the fight came to her, she realized too late that she wasn't ready for the war she had started. What makes this even more outrageous is how far Blake was willing to go to sabotage Justin's vision. He had spent 5 long years developing the film, painstakingly refining every detail, shaping the narrative, and carrying the weight of a director's responsibility. It was his passion project, his creation. And yet Blake waltzed in as if she knew better than the man who actually built it. She forced script rewrites that stripped away Justin's original intent. She shoved her way into director-level decisions, ignoring the chain of command. And in perhaps the most audacious move of all, she demanded final cut approval, as if she were Martin Scorsese himself. The arrogance was staggering. She believed her star power entitled her to override the very creator of the film, dismissing Justin's years of hard work in exchange for her ego-driven demands. But in doing so, she not only disrespected him, she exposed the hypocrisy and fraudulence of a Hollywood system that often rewards fame over substance. Even industry insiders began to whisper about it. People noted that Justin's agent, Ari Emanuel, one of the most powerful figures in Hollywood, was backing him fully, and that alone spoke volumes. Hollywood responds to power, and suddenly the tide was turning against Blake. The public could sense the hypocrisy, the arrogance, and the manipulation, and they weren't buying it anymore. What started as Blake's attempt to control the narrative and claim ownership of Justin's creation has now blown up in her face. Instead of cementing herself as a visionary force, she has exposed herself as an entitled diva who overplayed her hand. The world is watching her stumble, and for once, even Hollywood isn't rushing to shield her from the fallout. Justin Baldoni admitted that while he experienced a lot of material success, the emotional stress of the ordeal was crushing, not only for him but also for his family. And much of that pain came from the sheer arrogance Blake lively displayed throughout the process. Her demands went far beyond what anyone could justify. Final cut approval? Seriously, who did she think she was? She was hired to act, not to hijack the entire production. But Blake wasn't content with being an actress. She wanted to run the entire show. She pushed Justin aside at every turn, making sure the spotlight never left her, twisting the film into something unrecognizable just so she could keep control. The worst part was the humiliation she forced upon him. After spending years developing the project, pouring his heart into the story, and fighting to get it made, Justin wasn't even allowed to properly attend his own premiere. Imagine that. The director and creative mind behind the movie, the man responsible for bringing the vision to life, banned from walking the red carpet. Blake made sure he was kept in the basement while she strutted around like Hollywood royalty, smiling for cameras and pretending to be the force behind it all. And if that wasn't insulting enough, she refused to let him see the final cut until it was too late, keeping complete control as if she were the director, producer, and star rolled into one. She craved the power but refused to accept the responsibility that came with it. By the time the premiere arrived, Blake had essentially mandated Justin's absence. He spent the night isolated in the basement, away from his co-stars, and didn't even get to see the final cut of his own movie until it was playing on screen for the audience. Blake had insisted on being the sole authority to approve the film, effectively stealing the last ounce of creative control from the very man who had built the project from the ground up. And you would think that after all of this, after seizing control, shutting Justin out, and bending the production to her will, Blake would at least keep the film focused on its true purpose, raising awareness about domestic abuse. But no. Instead, she hijacked the entire project, stripping it of its intended message and turning it into nothing more than a glorified PR campaign for her own products. The serious story at the heart of the movie was drowned out by not-so-subtle plugs for her hair care line and Ryan Reynolds' gin brand. What was supposed to be an artistic statement about survival and awareness was reduced to a glossy commercial reel for her personal ventures, because of course Blake had to make it all about herself. Insiders in Hollywood couldn't believe what they were watching. The film was steamrolled by Blake, and it showed. Her inexperience as a producer was glaringly obvious, yet she bulldozed over everyone else, treating the production like her personal playground. As one critic put it, the movie stopped being about telling a meaningful story and became another chapter in Blake Lively's ongoing obsession with self-promotion. This was never about preserving artistic integrity or respecting the years Justin had poured into the project. It was about Blake making everything revolve around her once again. And now, she's paying the price. The public isn't buying her act anymore. Hollywood isn't buying it. The media has turned on her. The industry whispers are growing louder, and the very people she thought would protect her are backing away. The illusion of Blake Lively as untouchable Hollywood royalty is shattered, leaving behind the reality of a star whose ego finally pushed her too far. And the judge certainly isn't buying any of it. Blake thought she could destroy Justin Baldoni, but the reality is that he's the one dismantling her entire empire piece by piece. At this point, there's no coming back for her. What makes this even more damning is Justin's clarity about why he made the film in the first place. He has been careful not to let the scandal overshadow the original purpose of the project, emphasizing that his intention was to shine a light on the alarming rates at which women face abuse. He repeatedly stressed that he wanted the film to remain about the victims and their voices, not about Hollywood egos or fabricated feuds. That authenticity stands in stark contrast to Blake's shallow games. Blake Lively genuinely believed she could walk into court, play the innocent victim, and walk away untouched. She assumed Hollywood would blindly buy her sob story, that her A-list status would shield her from scrutiny, and that no one would dare question her narrative. But she underestimated one crucial detail. She left behind a trail of receipts, and Justin Baldoni has every single one of them. Those receipts, leaked texts, and emails completely obliterate her claims. In court, she cried, insisting Justin made her uncomfortable, painting herself as a vulnerable actress trapped in a toxic work environment. But her own words tell a different story. The same woman claiming she was terrified of him was casually texting Justin, inviting him to her trailer multiple times to hang out. And it doesn't stop there. The messages reveal a tone that is warm, even playful, not the least bit fearful. In one, she praises how much she enjoys working with him. In another, she jokingly calls him a ball buster, the kind of inside humor that only comes from camaraderie, not intimidation. These receipts don't just poke holes in her story, they rip it to shreds. How do you go from joking, praising, and inviting someone into your personal space to suddenly declaring they made you feel unsafe? The contradiction isn't just suspicious, it's flat-out laughable. Justin's team has done a masterful job at presenting this evidence, showing the full context instead of the cherry-picked claims Blake tried to weaponize. Every document, every message, every email puts another nail in the coffin of her case. And now, reports suggest Blake is scrambling to avoid sitting for a deposition with Justin's attorney, Brian Fredman, who has made it clear he won't pull any punches. Her desperation is obvious, because she knows the truth is about to come out in full. And when it does, there will be nothing left of her narrative to hide behind. Like, I know this girl grew up rich and privileged, but the real question is, just how rich are we talking? Because she walks around acting like she's royalty, like some untouchable princess who believes the world should bend at her command. And Justin isn't just calling out her contradictions, he's tearing them apart piece by piece with cold, hard evidence. His 179-page lawsuit isn't just paperwork, it's a full-blown exposé stacked with screenshots, emails, and undeniable receipts that paint Blake not as a victim, but as a liar, a manipulator, and a fraud. Every single claim she has lobbed at him has been methodically dismantled in black and white. Blake's main complaint? That she felt harassed because Justin allegedly called her sexy. She even cried in court about how uncomfortable it made her. But the problem for her is, right there in her own messages, she's casually calling him a ball buster, even joking about it like they were friends. How does that add up? On one hand, she's acting like his words traumatized her, and on the other, she's tossing around the same playful language with zero hesitation. The hypocrisy is staggering, and Justin's lawyers wasted no time highlighting it. And it doesn't stop there. For every teary-eyed claim Blake made under oath, there's a contradictory text, email, or even video clip showing the opposite. She said she felt unsafe, yet she was the one inviting Justin to her trailer repeatedly. She painted him as intimidating, yet her own words show her joking, laughing, and praising him for being great to work with. It's like she built this lawsuit on a castle of lies, and now the tide is coming in, washing it all away. The tide is coming in, washing it all away.